Hey, seventh graders, it's me, Mr. Allen, again with one of your flip lessons. Today we're going to be working on important battles of the Civil War. You should have your Civil War sheet here. It's going to be page number 95 in your interactive notebook. Should already be in there. Tonight is going to be kind of up to you how far you want to go. I'm going to check up to Gettysburg tomorrow, but I'm going to give you the whole flip lesson for the whole page. So if you want to continue on and do the whole thing, get the whole thing out of the way, be my guest. That'll give you a little bit less homework throughout the course of the week. All right. So battles of the Civil War, you're going to get down the parts that are bold and underlined as we go through it. Make sure you're lined up with each battle as well, because they might not go exactly in order of the map. All right. So the first battle of Bull Run. Bull Run is going to be the name that the Union is going to give to it. It's going to be called the Battle of Manassas in Southern, and we can talk a little bit about those differences later. It's going to be fought July 21st, 1861. All right, it's going to be fought in Manassas, Virginia. The winner is going to be the Confederates, or the South. And there's going to be about 3,000 casualties combined. This isn't counting, wounded and stuff like that. If we count the number of people who are wounded, that number is probably going to double. But the Battle of Bull Run is going to be the first kind of major Union troops versus Confederate troops on the field of battle during the Civil War. And this is a quick little map of the battle. The red is going to be the Confederates. The blue is going to be the Union. And most people thought that the war was going to begin and end here. Most people, as we looked at our notes the other day, that the Union was going to have a easy time of this. But they were really it was a rout. It wasn't even really close. The Union soldiers were untrained. The generals didn't show very great leadership. The South, again, didn't really win the Battle of Bull Run. They just didn't lose it. The North continuously attacked, and the South kind of beat them back and then went on to attack them. What's going to be important about the Battle of Bull Run is both sides are going to realize that the Civil War isn't going to be short, and that it's going to be particularly deadly. The thing about this war is, and we have the primary sources to prove it about this particular battle, is people thought, like I said earlier, this was going to be the beginning of the end, so they wanted to see what the Civil War was going to be all about. So you actually had people picnicking and watching the Battle of Bull Run, and basically they were in for a bloodbath. The entire battle was maybe 4 or 5 hours, and with about 6,000 people dead, or 6,000 people wounded, this was not something to go, and eat a sandwich while watching type of thing. The Battle of Antietam is going to be September 17th, 1862, so about a year later in Maryland. The winner of this battle is going to be the North, and I'm going to put winner in quotation marks, so we'll talk about that in a second. Casualties, there's going to be 23,000 combined between the Union and the South, and this is going to be the bloodiest day to this day in American military history. More men are going to die at Antietam than any other battle in any war that America has ever fought. And that's kind of something to wrap your mind around with new technologies and things like that, that the Civil War was, in fact, the bloodiest war that we have ever fought. And Antietam was the bloodiest day of that war. So again, you can see kind of the defensive structures set up by the South. You can see the North kind of in the advanced offensive positions, North in the blue, South in the red, and really it was the North just kept sending troops and sending troops and sending troops. That ability to have more troops and supplies, they just kind of overwhelmed the South, and the South again doesn't want to lose a major war, so they're going to retreat pretty quickly. Why Antietam is important is not so much the battle. Again, the battle wasn't so much the Union winning the war as the South just not wanting to fight this particular battle. But Abraham Lincoln knew he wanted to do the Emancipation Proclamation, but he knew he also wanted some good media coverage of it. So he needed to wait until a victory to really get the Emancipation Proclamation out there, and Antietam provided him with that. And the one thing about the Emancipation Proclamation that we will look into is that it's going to free the slaves in the South. and that's going to have some issues for a couple reasons, and it's going to provide some ammunition for folks to say that, the Emancipation Proclamation actually probably didn't really save anyone or free anyone from slavery. The Battle of Gettysburg is easily not only probably the most important battle ever fought in the Civil War, it's probably one of the most important battles ever fought by Americans in general. It's fought over the course of 3 days, July 1st, July 2nd, July 3rd in 1863 in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The Union is going to be the victors here. There's going to be over 50,000 deaths combined over the 3 days. And I know what you're thinking. You just said Antietam is the bloodiest day in American history. Well, that was because the Battle of Antietam was only 1 day. The Battle of Gettysburg is going to be 3 days. And the combined forces is going to lead to a huge casualties. So the Battle of Gettysburg is all about geography, and the North was able to kind of occupy the high ground during all of this battle, and it was up to the South as part of this northern invasion to take the Battle of Gettysburg, the North. The South had been kind of winning these battles and had kind of a renewed confidence and felt, let's stop this defensive war and let's invade the North and take this war to them and not only kind of not lose the war, but maybe we can actually win the war. And so you're going to see at the Battle of Gettysburg, you see Culp's Hill, Cemetery Ridge, etc., Devil's Den, Little Round Top. Those are going to be the strategic locations that the North is going to take hold. And quite actually, probably the battle within the battle happened at Little Round Top. That's where the Union wins the battle because the South was trying to do a flanking maneuver or kind of surround the North. And at Little Round Top, we're talking hand-to-hand, bayonet-to-bayonet, fist-to-fist type fighting over the course of 2 days to stop that from happening. First day is pretty much a Confederate victory. They push the North into the high ground. The second day, the South tries to charge up the hills, and they are unsuccessful. The third day, they try what is unanimously considered the biggest military blunder in American history. They tried to attack in the direct middle of the Union forces, and it's pretty much a bloodbath, and the Confederacy is forced to retreat on day 3, losing most of its men. Why is the Battle of Gettysburg important? It's going to stop the Confederate invasion in the North. It's basically a turning point as a war. The Confederates are only going to fight defensive battles in the South, and the North is going to have a renewed confidence to take that battle to them. Really, the war should have ended at Gettysburg, but General Meade and General McClellan, again, the poor leadership of the Union Army, do not pursue Lee. If they would have pursued Lee and kind of captured him and or defeated the army in the field, that would have been the end of the American Revolution. Right here, Gettysburg, if you want to stop, this is a good place to stop. If you want to keep going, let's keep chugging and knock out Vicksburg and Appomattox and Sherman's March to the Sea. Vicksburg, 1863 to July 1863, is going to be what we call the siege. Vicksburg is kind of the last town along the Mississippi that is giving the South some control of the river. Remember that one of the North's military goals is to control the Mississippi River, to basically cut the Confederacy in two. Winning the Battle of Vicksburg is going to allow the North to do that, and basically Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. It was fun, but you're no longer participating in the Civil War because you can't get troops across the river because it's controlled by the Union. You can't get troops over using the ocean because of the Union blockade there as well. There's going to be 37,000 casualties during this about couple-month siege, and that list is going to include prisoners. Prisoners of war were often determined as casualties because they weren't able to fight. But Vicksburg, again, a very strategic battle. A lot of battles leading up to Vicksburg. As you can see, kind of the Battle of Champion Hill. This is Ulysses S. Grant, Battle of Raymond, Mississippi, Battle of Port Gibson. You're going to see basically a kind of shrinking of the battle. The Confederates kind of try to keep the North away from Vicksburg, and the North kind of shrinks that in. And basically lay siege to the town. What that means is nothing's going to get in, nothing's going to get out. The North is going to be bombarding the town from the Potomac or from the Mississippi River. They're going to be bombarding the town from their posts outside of the town, and basically going to be waiting them out. The South already has issues with supplies getting there. They didn't have a lot of supplies to begin with, so after about 2 months of starvation, the Confederates are going to surrender, and this is going to give control of the Mississippi River to the north. And it's also, probably more importantly, that picture's kind of cutting down there, but Vicksburg is going to give Union control of the Mississippi River. Like we talked about earlier, it's going to cut that Confederacy in two. And Ulysses S. Grant, who is the leader of the Northern Army at Vicksburg, is going to be promoted to controlling the whole army, and he's going to kind of turn the tide of this war, because McClellan and Meade and some of the other leaders were a bit hesitant to attack the Confederacy because they still saw the Confederacy as, Americans. Well, Grant sees them as the enemy, and he is going to, in his own words, he's going to unleash bloody hell on his enemies, and the rest of the war is going to be just knock down, drag out, constant epic battles with casualty numbers that are going to get higher and higher. Kind of where Grant is kind of chasing Lee around Virginia and throughout the South. Grant's right-hand man, William Tecumseh Sherman, and is going to take the fight to the Deep South, and what's called Sherman's March to the Sea. He's going to go through Georgia. He's going to go through South Carolina, North Carolina. There isn't really going to be too many major battles in the March to the Sea, but Sherman is going to bring about what his concept of total war, meaning we're not just going to fight war against soldiers, we're going to fight the war against the entire South. We're going to destroy buildings, we're going to destroy railroads, we're going to destroy anything that the South can use in the war effort. We're going to burn plantations, burn cotton fields, we're going to free slaves and bring them into our army or send them to other places where they can join the Union Army, where fresh troops are needed or fresh workers are needed, etc. They're going to take the war to the Southern people and really try to kind of demoralize them or make them not want to fight the war, and kind of really attacked that motivational aspect that the South had for such a long time. Did I skip one there? Yep, I skipped one. Sorry, I'll go back. And you can kind of see his march to the sea. He's going to burn the city of Atlanta down to the ground, which is kind of the South's most important city in the Deep South. He's going to go all the way to Savannah, Georgia, and again, he is destroying pretty much everything in his path: railroad ties, cotton fields, plantations, whatever it is, anything that could be used to help the war effort, Sherman is going to be destroying. And this was kind of a battle plan drawn up by Sherman and by Grant. And got a little picture in the way there again, but you can kind of see this is what kind of happens after the concept of total war. Sherman's march is going to destroy Confederate railroads, supply lines, and plantations. Sherman's use of total war is going to cripple the South. They're already not doing too well. And then you have most of the big battles happening up in Virginia. Basically, the South is not able to cover all the ground that is needed during this time period, and kind of retreat to the north in order to, or not the north, but the Virginia area, to kind of control the capital region right around Richmond. Appomattox Courthouse isn't really a battle, but it's kind of a culmination of the Civil War in April 9th, 1865 at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia, where basically General Lee is going to surrender to General Grant and the Union Army, and it's going to effectively end the Civil War. And that's kind of basically what I've said. The key important part, though, is kind of Grant had been seen as this kind of ruthless leader. One of the Union strategies in the end of the war was they knew they had more troops, they knew they had more supplies, so they would just keep sending soldiers at the South. And in many of the latter battles of the North, or the Civil War, the North is actually losing more soldiers than the South is, but they keep winning because they can use the railroads and they can use technology to keep that to keep those soldier population up, to keep soldiers at the front lines. But Grant is actually very lenient with the Confederates. He basically allows them to return to their home, and says, as long as you return your home and nothing of this happens, you can keep pretty much everything that you got. And this was kind of the first step into what is going to be called Reconstruction later, with Lincoln's idea of what Reconstruction should be, to bring the South in as easily as possible. Well, that's it. Whether or not you did this over the course of 2 days or the course of one day, I'm going to be checking battles of the Civil War. We're going to be checking out some stuff on Gettysburg and the Emancipation Proclamation over the next couple of days. Hopefully this information is going to help you out, kind of understand the battles of the Civil War a little bit more. Wish we could have spent a little bit more time on it, but with the time crunch at the end of the year, I want to make sure we get some more time to do some a couple days of review leading up into the final. But if you have any questions, as always, hit me up on Schoology or come see me after school today. All right, have a good one.